Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Maindeck Podcast. This is episode number 16. I'm your host, Dan Green, and today I'm joined by Mike Piper. Mike, say hi to everyone.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
It has been a while, Mike. So last time we had you was the last in the middle of the pandemic podcast, I believe, and it's taken a while for us to get you back in here, but we're really excited because the topic of today's discussion is going to be the state of what I think is your favorite game, Dragon Ball Super. Is still your favorite, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say both, like, Digimon's up there a little bit. Like, I do play both of them. Both of them are really fun games. But I'd say Dragon Ball Super, Digimon. Dragon Ball Super a little higher, though, obviously.
Big fan of the Bandai games in general, though, right, Mike?
Yeah, love how they run them, for sure.
Awesome. So just like usual with our new kind of podcast format, we're going to start by just doing a little bit of banter here because Mike, it's been so long. I want to hear about all the games you've been playing. What have you been enjoying since we last talked?
So, still playing Dragon Ball Super, still doing it competitively. You and I, we were down there for Gen Con and played in a bunch of tournaments. Did get my national invite. Unfortunately, couldn't go out to nationals. It was out in California. So I kind of wish I would have got that, but I did get the prize support, which was really cool. So I've been doing a lot of the Dragon Ball Super card game competitively, and then really starting to get into the Digimon card game competitively too. Like, it's just really fun. Both games just really fun, easy to play, and a lot of people think the game's expensive, and it's really easy to get into both games. So been doing a lot of that, and work, obviously. Yeah. A lot of work. Just got a promotion, so that was really cool. So I was pretty excited about that.
All right, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
This is the Congratulating Mike on His Promotion podcast.
Yes. Well, thanks. And the nice thing is I do work from home, which is really nice. So, yeah, this is kind of like my home away from home, my office, and all that good fun setup. So
your home in your home, you mean?
Home in my home, essentially. Yeah, so.
So Mike, one thing that I noticed that Bandai did over the course of the pandemic is they've pretty quickly latched on to online events and have been running tons of them. Have you been playing a lot of those?
Absolutely. Anytime I have the chance to, because just the prize support alone, even if you don't even place or anything, just the prize support alone is value added. Like, you'll pay $30 for an entry fee, and literally can turn around and sell the cards for like over 200.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, it's just been value added. And so, yeah, I have been doing a lot of the online events, and a lot of these tournament organizers are doing a really, really great job for online. And the really nice thing is they're learning things now that they're doing online that they're now doing in physical events, which is really cool. Like,
can you give me an example of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like the round structure, like with RK9 Labs, like, so now, back in the day when we, would score, when we played the score, or not score, but Panini Dragon Ball Z card game. Sure. Like, how they would print out a piece of paper and they would tape it up on the wall. Now It's literally all done through an app. Like, it's all done through an app. Like, oh, hey, here's the round, scan your QR code. And they're even implementing it when it comes to checking into tournaments. Like, it's just, your deck list can all be done online now. Like, you literally can get into the event. You can even check in online, where you don't even have to stand in line, do all that. Like, you can just get to the event, and then it runs super smooth. So they're learning a lot from these online events that they're actually implementing in the offline events. And they're becoming a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Convenient?
Convenient, and they're quick. They're a lot
smooth turnarounds.
A lot smoother for sure.
Yeah. That's actually, that's not exclusive to like Bandai's games too, but like Magic introduced their companion app basically right before or around the pandemic. They kind of started to use it in everything. And their companion app is now how you register for any event you're in. You just pop open the app, type in an event code, and it puts you right in. So that kind of stuff is really changing, definitely making things a little smoother for events in general for TCGs. And I think you're right that like some of that is the result of people a lot like we found in work situations for everybody. A lot of like especially office workers type people have now have jobs that can be like a little more flexible, sometimes a little more work from home, because the pandemic kind of forced everybody to get the stuff in place to make that work.
Yeah, innovate.
Yeah, exactly. And we've found that I think in the TCG space as well, because of being forced to go like online and figure out how to do things that way, some innovations are like creeping back into how TCG paper events are going to be run in the future, now that we're finally getting to the point where those are becoming more prevalent.
Yeah.
So
Focus
Mike,
is on the good part.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So Mike, have you been playing paper as well then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, actually got my deck right here. Still doing the physical events, doing them local. Actually getting Dragon Ball Super started back up here locally. There's
that's one thing that's it's been a struggle for, I think, a lot of places to get back. I mean, it depends on where you are. I saw like some places were running paper tournaments with, like fully masked people or whatever, like a year and a half ago even. They just couldn't wait to get back in, and, stores needed the help. But I think in our local area, it's taken a little longer for people to kind of get going on that again.
Yeah, for sure. It's taken a little bit. One of the things that we're finding, especially even in our local area, is that we're running into three types of people playing the card game. You have your players, which, those, they buy the card game, they know how to play the game. Then you have your collectors that are literally just buying the cards for the artwork. They don't even know how to play the game, which those are the type of people we're trying to pull in. We're trying to pull in the collectors to learn how to play the game, the cards that they buy. And then finally you have investors, and these are the people that are just buying the cards, and they're literally, I'm going to hunt for X card so I can turn around, get it graded, and sell it on eBay. So those types probably not going to be playing the game too often.
Yeah.
And they can actually sometimes actually raise the price of the card game, which is kind of a bummer. But at least they're buying product, I guess. At least they're buying product.
It's a double-edged sword. This is something that we've seen another just like impact from the pandemic on the wider TCG space, was that there was a period of time for a number of reasons, which I can't remember if we've like glazed over in a podcast yet, but there's a period of time right in the middle of like late 2020, early 2021 when Pokemon cards began to skyrocket. Magic reserve list cards began to skyrocket. I think DBS cards got some jump from that too and everything. And, partially due to an influx of sort of like just spending money for people, as everyone, like a lot of people were getting the government money basically from and dropping this stuff. But then the other thing that I think a lot of people just blame it on that, but what people miss is that there was a huge sort of splash from the game stonks situation, the whole like Wall Street bets, GameStop. People started trying to like flip money into things, and then also the crypto market and NFTs started to gain popularity as ways for people to just try and flip some easy money. And a number of people just went and said, hey, what about these Pokemon cards and stuff? And then it just started to like, it kind of caught on like wildfire and started to really raise prices. And now we've seen things settling down a little bit since then, which is good, because like we're saying, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because like, it's really great when people then look at these new products coming out for actual ongoing card games and see, wow, okay, like maybe this will have some value. I'm going to invest some in this, buy some product. And that makes, it makes everybody's product have a little more value.
Exactly.
When you purchase it. But on the flip side, if you're just trying to buy like competitive cards, and those are the ones that are being affected, for whatever reason, buy that, then it's more expensive to like buy a deck just to play.
Exactly. And I don't get me wrong, I totally benefited from the rise in prices. I mean, you and I were both at Gen Con. I mean, you're darn right. I took advantage of it. And oh yeah, I was able to really get, sold my cards for over $10,000 and then able to get and focus on the decks that I really like and the cards that I really wanted to collect, and then I could get into multiple card games. So don't get me wrong, I definitely took advantage of that. And I like that because especially in the Dragon Ball Super card game. Well, I don't know. I know they do this in Digimon, and I'm pretty sure they do it in other card games. They actually will bring out support for older cards. And then, once, you go on, even TCG Player, the recent best example is Dragon Ball Super release support for GT. Red GT Saiyan cards, the Goku, Trunks, and Pan, and they released support for that. Excuse me. And when they released that support, all of a sudden, all those older cards from, we're talking set 2, set 3, skyrocketed. You go on TCG Player, I think they literally went from like 50 cents. Some of them are going up to $5-6, even more. I mean, cards that were just in your binder, just sitting there collecting dust, are now worth $5-6.
Yeah. So, yeah. Which isn't like a lot of money per card, but if you just happen to like be sitting on a bunch of play sets of those, it becomes like real money that you can trade or sell to get new stuff if you want, or just like maybe you're just excited to play that archetype. That definitely is something that happens a lot in card games that develop archetypally. It's like some games are like Magic the Gathering where they'll come up with a new set. It's basically its own set of things. They try to do like very light crossover with themes from other sets. Yeah. But it's really just focused on, you can play these cards in anything, and maybe you'll come up with a creative way to use them with old stuff, or maybe you're just going to kind of focus on the new stuff. But then other card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball Super, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like, I think, the big one for a lot of people that recognize this, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game where a new archetype will come up. That's the deck. It's like you're not going to put your like cyber dragons in your virtual world stuff. They just don't. There's no like crossover there. You're much better off just putting, here's the virtual world archetype. I'm going to put all the virtual world cards in, and then that's my deck. And Dragon Ball Super is not exactly that. Dragon Ball Super has more flexibility, but a lot of their design is really focused on, like you said, like red GT stuff, like the GT stuff with red. That's the stuff you want to play. And every game that does archetypal design like that generally will start to throw some bones to old archetypes as they go on. Even Yu-Gi-Oh's put like, here's some Dark Magician support here, he's whatever, and just to give you some cool new stuff to play with to make the old cards good. The question is always like, how good are they at doing that? Right. Yeah. Because like,
sometimes not very successful. No.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be really, because it can be really tough to take an old archetype and put in a couple new cards, because that old archetype isn't played because it got power crept out generally. It just, the game has moved on from that level of power. There's some other stuff to do. And there's no way to make like 10 old cards be as strong as 12 new cards with just 2 new cards. Without like completely blowing things out, being like, okay, but now these 2 new cards are like way stronger than everything else, just to like try and carry the 10 old cards.
The one thing that I will say that they do well, and Dragon Ball Super does that, the card game, they do that extremely well. The perfect example, and I did deck profiles of the deck, set 7 Zamasu. And
those are some of our most popular deck profiles still of all time. They're really cool decks, and we need you to come back to them at some point, by the way.
Oh yeah, nope, I plan on it. I'm actually play testing a few of them, so coming weeks. But they added one card. They literally added one card in this most recent set that changed like set 7 or Zamasu in general, and that's the 5-drop Zamasu, where it's indestructible blocker, has all these really neat.
So many keywords on it, Mike.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this is for our audio listeners. In our video version, you can see the card on Mike's screen. It's crazy. Okay, explain, why is this card so good?
So the reason why this card's so good is number one, it's a 5-drop, which goes right into the 9-drop for Tragedy Overground. Then normally when you play the 9-drop, like normally you'll go against like a blue deck and they'll be like, oh yeah, here Trunks, put that back in your hand. You've tapped all your energy, you're done. Well, with this 9-drop or this 5-drop, it's an indestructible blocker. So it's a blocker every turn that can't be destroyed unless you go against a red deck and it negs it, but otherwise can't be destroyed. And then it has and I'm going to mispronounce the name.
Yes.
Aegis. How do I? Aegis.
Yeah, like pretend it's a J and then you're all good.
Aegis. So it has Aegis where you can discard a blue-yellow card from your hand, untap 2 energy, and then you get to tap one of their non-leader cards, and that includes their energy. So you could tap one of their energy, you could tap one of their unisons, you could tap a battle card. So essentially that 1/5 drop's taking care of 2 potential attackers every turn, and it can't be destroyed. And it can go right into your 9-drop. You can just go, oh, hey, I pay the 4 energy. Oh, you're going to Trunks my 9-drop? Okay, at least I still have an indestructible blocker, and I'm going to have 2 open energy next turn. So that... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I remember the thing that you loved about your Zamasu deck, and the thing that I think like a lot of people questioned until they saw it in action was that you ran max card count for a while. I don't know if you ever adjusted that back down, and it was all about just making the opponent defending entirely, basically making the opponent have to deal like 100 life to you to kill you.
Yeah.
And having blockers and all this kind of stuff. So that sounds like it fits exactly into that strategy.
Yeah, and that would be the set 2 Zamasu deck. That's the one where, you can continue taking the life. I do still play that one. But in the set 7 Zamasu, I do run about 55, which is a healthy amount, especially when you run into mill decks, because there are mill decks that are around. So I do run about 54, 55, and I use a probability program, and the probability of going from 54 to 55, or like 50 to 55, isn't, it obviously it adjusts the probability of you getting certain cards, but not by too terribly much. Like the benefit outweighs the negative. So that's why I'll run 55. Won't go higher than that though.
This is going to be just a mini aside that I think is kind of interesting, and maybe it should just be a full podcast at some point. But I think there's one thing that I've learned in my just exploring a lot of different card games is that there's a mentality, especially from Magic players, which is I'm not going to say is wrong at all, that you should always run the lowest amount of cards in your deck because of that probability change. It's impossible to deny that there is a probability adjustment, right? Of drawing, like you have some cards in your deck that are going to be the best in any given situation. The more cards in your deck, the less likely, even if it's a small amount, you are of drawing the card you actually need in a situation. The thing that a lot of people don't take into account, and this applies to Dragon Ball Super, this applies hugely to Universes / My Hero Academia as well. The more cards you work with, the more cards you get to draw, basically in a particular card game or a particular deck, but especially in just like some card games are just in Universes, it's not unusual to draw through your whole deck. It happens like in like not even a deck that is intending to do that. The more and you don't lose in that game when that happens, by the way. But the more likely that is, or the more likely it is to just draw a lot of cards given just the basic rule set of the game, the smaller the impact is of those like adjustments to making a card less likely to get by having a bigger deck size, which is why you see a lot of competitive Universes decks, like competitive, not just like competitive, like, ooh, you could play that in a tournament, but like literally winning worlds with this deck list. These decks are going to like 70, 72, 80 cards, like whatever Universes was standard is a 60 card format. And they're just like throwing, I've seen like 90. I've seen some like I think close to 100 card deck lists of people just running, and they adjust the probabilities of card types in the deck, right? They're like, okay, well, if I'm playing 70 cards, I need to have a few more attacks or something to make sure that I'm still seeing them at this ratio of attacks to non-attacks and that kind of stuff. But what they just decide is that there's all these like key cards. They're like, okay, but I have to be able to get this card for this matchup. and I need to have these this particular set of foundations just to deal with like this scenario or something. And if you can't fit everything in a 60 card deck, but you're drawing like 6 or 7 cards a turn, it doesn't really hurt you that much to throw the extra cards in. And then it'll save you matches instead.
Yeah, and it's funny that you actually mentioned that, because one of the most recent changes, and I don't know if you've been keeping, like, if you heard about it, but they actually tested this at the DBS Fest events. Side decks, which were in the game, but one of the really awesome things they implemented. I'm a huge fan of it. I know some people aren't. It's controversial, but I'm a huge fan, and I think they're going to move forward with it. Is best of one side deck, which changes the game big time. Because how it works, because unlike some other games, like how it works is at the beginning of the game, you see your opponent's leader card. So in Dragon Ball Super, like you have, for those that don't, there's a leader card that you start out the game with that comes out into play. So when both opponents show their leader card, you can go, oh, okay, I'm going against a blue deck. Okay, I'm gonna go through my side deck, which is 15 cards, and I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna put this, and this in here. Oh, I'm going against a green hand destruction deck. I need to put in some ways to get around hand destruction, which really changed the whole dynamic of the game, because a lot of times in online tournaments, or even now when you go into the paper tournaments, they're doing best of one. Like a lot of times, like when you were building your deck, you had to put a lot of those kind of almost silver bullet type cards against certain archetypes. Now that you have that side deck, you can really focus on, like in a best of one, you can really focus on, okay, this is what I want my deck to do, but I'm going to have my side deck. It's like, okay, if I'm going to go against green, I can do this. If I go against blue, I have this. If I have this. So, that makes it really, really, like, it changes the whole dynamic of how you make your deck now, which I really, really like.
So when they implemented that in Dragon Ball Z Score, which was so we're going back in time to the 2000s now, but back then that had the same thing where you sat down, you saw your opponent's character, their MP stack, you saw their mastery, and then they added these things called sensei decks, which would they made it complicated, as was the way of doing 2000s card games. So you had like a sensei card that had its own abilities, and then it had a variable size of its sensei deck. But then at the start of the game, when you put those cards in from your sensei deck, you then randomly exiled, basically banished or whatever, cards from your deck that you didn't get to choose from. So in Super, do you get to pick the cards at the start of the game as well?
Yep, Super, you get to pick the cards.
Okay.
Yep, and just like the Piccolo Sensei from the Score card game. Yeah, I love that. Was one of my favorite Senseis.
Well, of course, because... So the Piccolo Sensei let you actually choose the cards that you got rid of. And as it turns out, outside of decks that desperately wanted an effect to like search for an ally at will or something, you just wanted to run the Piccolo Sensei if you had any sort of like combo or were playing Dragon Ball Victory or something, because you could not risk just randomly banishing cards. And so it was a pretty popular ultra rare to put in.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, okay, Mike, we've already been jumping a lot into Dragon Ball Super, which is great. I just want to hit a couple of things quick about what I've been playing for anyone curious, and then we're going to let you just kind of go wild telling us about everything you love about Dragon Ball Super right now, the state of Dragon Ball Super. So just before we jump into that, I have been I've been working. I haven't been getting to play a lot because I've been working very hard on some upgrades for our Discord server. So I do have to give a shout out to our Discord server and let everyone know there's a link down in the description to join here. If let's see, I'm thinking about when this is releasing. When this releases, our first automated league should be live, which is something I've been working very hard on. I've been developing a bot who is named May after our mascot, and May is going to run all of the sort of busy work of running a league for us. So our leagues are going to be they're going to be a mostly casual and kind of at your own time way of playing online with people. So the one thing that I am not huge, so you love doing this. You love playing the online events. That's great. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of that style of play because I have a hard time being at home and devoting my whole day to that, when there's all sorts of other stuff at home, your family and everything that can kind of come in the way of that. So I have a better time just going out and I'm not, and I don't have the social aspect. That's what I really crave about TCGs in general. I'm a big social person. I love to be at the event, focused on the event, that kind of stuff. But what I don't mind doing is just sitting down and playing a game with someone, a few times a week, and sit down and play an online game. So the idea with these leagues is that you are going to you join your Discord server, you find an ongoing league that you want to play in, and you just tell May you want to join it, and she signs you up because she's really helpful like that. And then you just use our role system where you can react to be able to be pinged whenever someone's looking for a game, and ping others who have that role to find people who want to play games. You ping and find a game to play. You sit down and depending on the league, it'll either be like webcam play, it'll be tabletop simulator, untap, just kind of depending on the game or whatever. Octagon perhaps for Dragon Ball Z Fanzy if we want to do that at some point. And you play the game, and then you just go to May, and one of you, either the winner or the loser, reports the game to May. It all gets tracked in the back end, and then the leagues will run for a number of weeks where you get to play X games a week against unique opponents each week. You can play the same opponent. I could play you, Mike, week 1, and then I could play you again week 2, but I can't just sit here and play 3 games against you or 3 matches against you and record them all. So it encourages just kind of playing your games, swap your decks at any time, just experiment with stuff. And the pricing for these, they're currently we're just doing free entry ones. And the pricing is going to be dependent on the game. Our first one we're starting with is a Grand Archive League. So that's the game that's coming out later this year. That we're big fans of, and that's going to be run on Tabletop Simulator using all of the Prelude cards they've revealed so far. And we're being provided 5 more Starfoil Festive Night Lorraine sample promo cards by the company. One is going to go out to the person with the highest score at the end of it'll be a 3-week league. And then the other 4 will be raffled off to people, and everyone will earn entries based on their number of games they played in the league. So you don't even have to win. You just come in, you just play some games. When you have time, find people to play with. If you get in at least 3 games a week, you're going to have the max entries, and then we'll raffle off 4 of those promos to people who played and took part. So
killer setup.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. And May's got all these commands you can use to look at your rank and the leaderboards and all that kind of stuff. And we've just been working really hard at getting that. And huge thanks to some of our Discord members who have been, and our patrons too, who have been helping us test all that and get it up and convenient for everyone, because sometimes when you're directly developing something, you just don't think about certain ways that users will interact with something. So it's been really nice to have people who've been helping with that too. So beyond that, so that was my really short shout out. I just wanted people to know, because that's something really exciting that we're going to be starting for a variety of games soon. Maybe we'll do a Dragon Ball Super one, and you can help me come up with some cool prizing for that and everything. So, but yeah, other than that, I've been playing just a little bit of Magic. Had a 2-headed giant Modern Horizons 2 tournament I played the other weekend, I love 2-headed giant. It's a format that I wish more games could implement well. Do you know about 2-headed giant, Mike? You know what that is?
I'm familiar with Magic, not that card though.
Oh, it's not. Well, I mean, I guess it was a card in alpha. 2-headed giant is one of the coolest types of formats for a card game, where generally it's played in tournament settings as a limited format. So you'll play sealed deck basically. One way that we always do it at pre-releases here locally. At a pre-release, you and a partner will each get a pre-release kit, which will have 6 packs in it. You open up all those packs, and that's one combined pool of 12 packs, plus your pre-release promos and stuff. And you build 2 decks out of your giant pool of cards, and then you play 2-on-2 games against people. So it's not 2 separate games. It's one game with 2 teams of 2 players each. You cannot pay for each other's mana or anything, but you have basically one board of creatures that are on either player's side in each team, and you attack and block together. So like I can attack the other team, and then either partner can send a creature to block and that kind of stuff. And you have a shared life total of 30 life. And it ends up just being a lot of like, there's a lot of strategy in how you build the decks. Should we like both try and like create rush down style aggro decks? Should we have one person play a little more control, one person push some more threat onto the board a little faster? Both play kind of mid-rangey, so you can like really, depending on your pool, especially in limited, that's going to dictate a little bit of what you do, but you have a lot of leeway to kind of decide. We usually sit down and we'll like be like, okay, I think this color combination looks good and this one looks good, and then we'll start building those and go, nah, these weren't good. Give me the red stuff. I'm going to try putting that in here. You take the blue, and then like, you just again work back and forth to come up with something, and then in the game, there's a lot of just like talking to each other. Okay, should we counter that spell, or like, do we need to use removal right now on this thing, or can we take the damage? And just it brings out, again, I love that social aspect of TCGs, and it's a lot of
team aspect. Yeah, I love the team aspect.
It's all teamwork, and it's all just like trying to come up, and we have had so many situations. I usually play with the same partner every time. One of our patrons, Randall Cummings, is my usual two-headed giant partner. And we've both had so many times where I've been like, yeah, no problem. Let's just let that thing resolve. Let that creature exist. And he's like, no, like, no, we need to do that kill this right now, or it's going to be a problem. And then it turns out, yeah, you were totally right. And we've had like a lot of vice versa situations on that too, where it's just that two heads combined. I feel like you tend to play like really good games of Magic when there's two sides, two brains working on both sides to like come up with the best line of play each time. And it ends up being a lot of like really tight and really fun games. And despite not doing well at that event, we had, you would not believe the comebacks that we had on a couple of those games. We sat down after one of the games and said, that was probably the best game of Magic we've ever played. Like, was just incredible, like fighting against all odds and then coming up with this like really like roundabout way of like, okay, if we can get them to ultimate their planeswalker, then we can use this to answer the ultimate thing that happens, and then we can use this creature land they're not thinking of to kill the planeswalker after we wrath the board with this thing. And like, it's just, I wish more games had that kind of system in it. And I almost feel like Dragon Ball Super could do a two-headed giant system. It's
be nice. I
feel like it wouldn't take too many tweaks to the rules.
Yeah, we have team play, which is really nice, where you can get a team where you get like two people on your team, and they call them team wars. You go to the events. The only thing is like once you're in the team wars, like basically it's like, okay, I'm playing against someone, they're playing against someone, they're playing against someone. And then if I win and then my partner wins, that's 2 of the 3 games. It sounds like with Magic, which I really like, and I kind of wish they could implement that in Super, is you're actually actively talking to your opponent. Like, you're actually strategizing with each other's games, and it's like, okay, hey, you should do this. You have a shared life total. I think I'd like to see something like that in Super, where they could actually implement that, where it brings more of that team aspect, because Team Wars is very successful. Like, people love Team Wars because, being part of a team, that's awesome. People want to be part of a team. So I wish we kind of had more of that in Dragon Ball Super. So I don't know, maybe I can, somebody will think of something, or I'll think of something. We can go to Bandai and just be like, hey, let's start implementing this. Let's start having this in tournaments. Let's start having the Team Wars.
Maybe Mike, you and I will brainstorm a two-headed, who's a two-headed character in Dragon Ball Super? Is there anyone who's got 2 heads? I can't think of anyone. You got to have the right name for it though, right? The format name's most important. So I don't know. Maybe it's just called Fusion, right? It's just called Fusion format, where you two fuse into one player, right?
Wait, is Fusion format already being taken by another game with Dragon Ball though?
That's the fancy thing. Like, whatever. That's cool, but like Dragon Ball Super Fusion tournaments is what we need to make a thing, Mike. So you and I let's brainstorm. Let's come up with a rule set and test it out, and then just if people like it, then then people can play those events. So
oh yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, because we do need something like that. I like the fun. Team aspect is huge. So.
And hey, if anyone has a good idea of how to do it, just leave it in the comments down below too. We totally don't care about the credit here. I just want to have like a cool format that people can play. So
that would be cool.
Okay, so that's really all I got to say there. So Mike, I know all you want to do is talk about Dragon Ball Super here. So
sure.
Let's jump in and talk about the state of Dragon Ball Super a little more than we've been talking about. And in my opinion, the perfect place to start is especially given so with the pandemic, a lot of card games, I'm sure a lot of people felt a lot of card games were like dying or whatever, right? And I think that's something that every community has. It's talking about their individual card, like even Magic has like people like, is Magic dying? Like, no, it's
no.
And people say that about Yu-Gi-Oh! People say that about Universes. People say that about Dragon Ball Super. And Dragon Ball Super just released a set called Realm of the Gods. Mike, what's your take? Is with Dragon Ball Super, is it dying, and how's Realm of the Gods treating it?
No. Not even close. Like at least locally, I can tell you, no, not even close. I mean, one of the things that's really keeping Dragon Ball Super, well, I wouldn't want to say really keeping it alive, but definitely keeping it up there. It's like we said at the beginning of the podcast. You have the three type of players. Three type of people. You have players, collectors, and investors. And there's a lot of people that are collecting / investing in the Dragon Ball Super product. And the biggest example I can tell you is this recent set, Realm of Gods. They released a new rarity. It's called God Rare. And we're talking, this card is one out of, and there's so many debates on like how rare it is, because it's more, you can't buy like a bulk of cases, right? Like you can't, you know how
you can't buy a case of cases where they're all like produced and collated together.
Exactly. Right. So the rarity of the God Rare is highly debated. People are saying 1 out of 4, 1 out of 6.
Is that cases? It's cases, not boxes. You're talking about, right?
Cases, not
it's
boxes.
It's so rare that we just don't even know how rare it is.
Yeah. That's the thing. We're talking cases, not boxes. So you could buy a case and not get this God Rare.
And a case, because it can get very game to game. A case in Dragon Ball Super is that 6 or 12 boxes? 12 boxes. Oh my goodness. I couldn't remember because it's been a while, but like, wow, that is a rare card.
Yeah. So you're looking at, when Realm of Gods first came out, you could get a case. Like I know our locals, we could get it for about $900. And people just started picking up those cases, going after that God Rare Vegeta. I think the God Rare Vegeta, and that's the, I wish I had one to show you. I do not have one.
Oh, come on, Mike.
I didn't pull one. I know I didn't pull one.
Get out there. You got to buy more.
I know I got to buy more. Well, that's the problem. I can't. You can't find the product anywhere. So,
yeah.
But which is nice. Again, it's selling. But the God Rare now I think goes for like $1,700. So literally, if you pull that God Rare, that not only pays for your case, like everything else is just pure profit. And people are getting the card graded, and collectors are buying it because people love not just card games, but they love Dragon Ball Super stuff. I mean, look at my room. Like they love collecting Dragon Ball Super stuff. And when, the game is producing artwork, like I have 3 different versions. Again, for those on audio, you're not seeing this. But 3 different art versions of the same card. All these cards do the same thing. 3 different art versions of Goku Black Unforeseen Darkness. It's just a huge collector's market for investors and collectors. So people are buying up these cards, and they may not necessarily be playing in locals. And because Bandai really doesn't, one of the things is they don't do a lot of advertising. So you probably don't see commercials that say, hey, here's our new Dragon Ball Super card game. Try this. It's all like word of mouth. That's why it's kind of really important that, especially like in my local community, I'm trying to get these collectors and these, the investors I'm trying to, but these collectors, and say, hey, that's pretty artwork. I know you collect Dragon Ball Super. You can also play with those cards, and you can actually, the card game's actually really, really fun to play. You should try playing it too. So do I think the Dragon Ball Super card game, you get a lot of people that are saying, hey, it's dying in my area. Yeah, your players, sure, but there's still a lot of collectors, and there's still a lot of that, and that keeps the game going. So
yeah, a game, a TCG is carried by two things. It's by the in-store presence, keeping players interested, and it's by having a strong collector's market. And these days, people also add investors into the pool, like you said, because following the pandemic, investing in card games has become sort of a pastime for some people. And the difference between these is that the players like the cards and like the game. The collectors like the cards, and they either don't like the game or haven't tried the game. The investors don't like the cards, and they don't like the game. They just want to make the money off of it. So I don't like to include investors necessarily in what keeps a game alive, because if all you have is investors, then they don't have any value. The cards have literally no value. Because
you got to have the collectors too.
You have to have someone who likes the cards to, like at a base level, in order for your game to for people to care about your cards, people have to like them in some aspect. If if a card game came on Kickstarter and only invested into it, then they're going to get the cards and go, okay, who wants to buy it? And nobody does. So
yeah, I will say though, I have been trying to get hold of Logan Paul, see if he can't wear one of the Dragon Ball Super cards, across his chest. I know he does that for Pokemon. I think he recently he went to WrestleMania and he wore a Pikachu card. Yeah. I was like, that card's worth $1 million now, right? So I'm like, hey, you want to wear one of my cards? Here, why don't you try wearing some of these Dragon Ball Super cards? And then just
Mike, if you hear back, let me know. I'm excited.
I know, right? get him that stuff. But yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's an interesting piece of advice for people who, it's unfortunate. So a couple things I want to talk about. The first thing is about card games advertising. Most card games don't. There isn't a lot, and actually I think Dragon Ball Super does more advertising than some games do. They make YouTube videos that they show off every time there's a new set or a new block in the case of the next one and everything. They have these cool videos that kind of showcase the cards and are really fun and exciting for people. And that's not something that every card game, some card games just say, hey, there's a new set. Even, it actually took a while for Magic to start doing that. Magic does it now. Magic has huge productions every time they have a new set that they including they have a soundtrack for the next set, all sorts of really interesting things they're kind of throwing at the wall. But not every card game just even makes a video or anything. They just say there's a new set coming, and then the people who are into it are into it. And word of mouth is huge for getting people into a card game. And so if you're out there thinking we're blasting you and saying you're wrong if you feel like the game's dying in your area, I don't think that's true, because like you were saying, Mike, it can totally be the case that players have fallen off, and that happened in our area with Universes. We were just getting things going, getting really excited about it. My Hero Academia, we're all pumped up. Pandemic hit. Pandemic changed everything. Maybe that's the actual theme of this podcast. But it is very easy for people to fall off when they don't have, for people like myself especially, that social interaction with people, keeping them coming back week after week, month after month, whatever, however often you're doing these. And a lot of people during the pandemic found online hobbies they like doing better. And where the community is always there. A lot of people got into Final Fantasy 14, Guild Wars 2, other MMOs like that. WoW, people kind of left WoW, but WoW's always its own thing.
Yeah.
Blizzard had plenty of troubles during that time, so then we're just going to leave that there. Or other kind of online games, online communities people were finding that they were enjoying doing. And it's tough to get someone who just got into those communities to come back and play the game. It's certainly possible. I found that when we went to Gen Con last year and I was back into the social experience again, I was like, oh yeah, I love this. This is like,
right?
This,
yeah.
How did I forget how much I enjoyed everything about this? And so you can definitely get some of your lapsed players to come back, but the unfortunate truth is that you probably are going to have to put in some amount of work to get a community that was once doing fine to thrive again. And it doesn't matter what card game you're talking about necessarily. The one issue is that some stores, Magic is the easiest one to get the community back in for, because they just kind of have to go, we have tournaments again. And then everyone's like, cool. And they like come back. The smaller card games tend to take a little more effort because the store doesn't see as much return right away unless they were really smart and ordered Realm of the Gods, apparently, which is, but this is where Bandai's helpful, because if they put out, I mean, I don't think Realm of the Gods and God Rares was any sort of coincidence. It's a great way to get stores to go, wow, that's a product I should have, huh? And get it on their shelves again and start to get these local communities to have to make it easier for them to get players back into the door. So players have to do less work. But if you're working on a smaller card game, not small, but a smaller card game, and you're trying to get your player base going, you do kind of have to do a little bit of, hey bud, we're getting back and we're playing again. You should totally come. I got a deck for you. I've been buying the new stuff. Come on and play. And going after collectors is a smart tactic too, trying to find the people who are buying all this Realm of the Gods product and being like, you know, since you bought it all, do you want to try the game? Like maybe you'll enjoy it or something.
Absolutely.
Because it's an untapped area in a lot of ways, and that applies to every card game as well. But Bandai card games in particular are very collectible, just because of the way that they make their cards and their art. They have a really good eye for just making cards that people want, regardless of kind of what the text is on them.
Right. Yep. There's some cards that are valuable just because they look good.
Yeah, exactly. So, Mike, with with everything kind of ramping up again, you're getting some more paper play and everything. How has the game been doing as far as like from a play perspective? We're talking balance, we're talking bannings of cards, that kind of stuff. Why don't you just talk about where the game is at right now?
Sure. Well, I actually, when you mention that, one of the things with the Bandai card game is it is made, a lot of the cards, my understanding is they're made over in Japan. And when they translate the cards over here within the States, sometimes there's some punctuations and wordings that can get kind of confusing, which I know you're kind of smirking and laughing.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like the recent thing when it came to, there were quite a few cards, like the Ultimate Dragon Bullet. Like, I don't even know the name of the card because it didn't even matter until one person was like, oh, hey, you can play this card when they don't play a unison and they can only attack one more time per turn because it just says counterplay. And because there's no colon here, I can do this, and this. And, yeah, first off, kudos to our judges because they were put in an incredibly difficult situation. And Dan, I know you were a judge, and this is a tough one. Like, what would you do here? You either had, you would either go, okay, I'm going to interpret this card as in what I think Bandai is trying to say here, or I got to interpret this card exactly how it says, and this is the way it's going to be. And either way, the player base is going to be upset with you.
Absolutely.
And
in that situation, by the way, I would go with the strict wording of the card, and pass the buck to Bandai, because at least I can say, you know what? It's not my fault they worded it that way.
Yep. And that was tough because you had some judges that were like, No, there's no way it can work that way. We got to do it this way, because if you do it this way, that it just destroys the whole game.
Both are correct. Is the issue is that the wording you need to do the strict interpretation. However, it's very clear that's not what they intended the card to do. Exactly. So both sides are correct. I don't fault anyone for taking either, but I would go with the strict interpretation.
So kudos to our judges, especially David. David reached out to Bandai. That was awesome. I mean, was right on top of it. Literally,
Fashbinder.
Yep, right? Yep, absolutely. He was right on top of it, and I think it was literally like 2 days. I kind of wish I was there when he had that conversation with him. Like, hey, now, because we had an event coming up, and it's like we need to fix this now. We need answers now. So, but yeah, kudos to the community on that. Right now, I feel like you have some strong decks, like, King Piccolo, and, everyone's playing the yellow Trunks deck, and, Gogeta Black, everyone's playing that style of deck. But I really feel like right now, I personally feel the format is very open. Like, there are rogue decks that can do really, really well. Green, I think, is really suffering. I think green needs something. It does have hand destruction, but when aggro can literally beat it, like in turn 2, turn 3, which Bandai has tried, like they've really tried to errata and ban cards that can do that. Obviously, I mean, if you look at their ban list, anything that can potentially win that quick, they want to get rid of. But it is Dragon Ball Super, and it's all about going Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 and Super Saiyan God. Everyone's trying to go to that next level, and I'm going to beat you in turn 2 or turn 1, or you get a lot more of that aggressive stuff in the Dragon Ball Super card game. Me, I'm a control player. I like to, I'll play with you till turn 5, and then good game, we're done. Then I'm gonna, but yeah, I overall, I think right now the state of the game when it comes to the actual cards, I mean, I think things are going really well. There's a few cards, that I could potentially see that they're getting rid of. Like there's this with the new engine coming out for GT, there's this red card. It's a 0 cost. I forget the name of it. It's got a picture of Jiren on it. It's a counter attack, and you can minus 1 marker from your unison. For every marker that you minus off the unison, you can neg a battle card by negative 5,000. And with the new GT card coming out, I probably just gave out a bunch of spice. People are like, wait, what? And they're sitting there taking notes. But with the new GT card coming out, literally it's a unison card that can't attack, but you build a bunch of markers on it. Like it's super easy. Turn 3, 4, you're going to get like 7, 10, 13 markers on the card. And then all of a sudden you just play, you could easily play that counter attack and go, oh, you comboed to 100 well, it would be before the combo step because you negate. But I mean, it's a free negate, and you could take out like a big 8-9 drop battle card. And in worse, it goes through indestructible because it's negging the card. Sure. Yeah. So bad for my deck. So yeah, Bandai banned that card. But get rid of it.
You get to play it first. It first.
Yeah. But
then they ban it.
Yeah.
So actually, you brought up something I really wanted to talk about because it was like maybe a couple of years ago that they started their new format for releasing sets in series, right? They before this it was just booster set, like whatever, and then they began a series format, which is like a super, super extended Magic block format where Magic used to do 3 set blocks. The Unison Warrior series has gone on for they had the boost. They had like halfway through, then they made it like the Unison Warrior boost series and then too. But it's been like 7 sets or something, or 8 sets or something of Unison Warrior stuff. But like they introduced, the big change in the game was they introduced these Unison cards, and Unison cards are like fairly interesting card types where they sort of act like a Planeswalker does, was the first comparison people made in Magic, where they come in with a number of counters, and then each turn you can use an ability on them to remove, or I can't remember if they put add counter abilities on Unisons too. Do they do that? Okay, add or remove. Yep.
Yep.
But they're also battle cards that, in a way too, where you can attack with them, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, yeah. I mean, what's your retrospective here, Mike? After now that we've got the last Unison Warrior set coming very soon, which is called Ultimate Squad, if I remember right. And now you've gotten to see basically, and they're even doing previews for that now. So you've basically gotten to see everything that they were kind of doing to work Unisons into the game. How do you feel about the addition of Unisons to the game? How has the game changed? And do you like them being in the game compared to how the game was?
Absolutely. It just adds a whole new dynamic to the game. Really, really, really powerful abilities. At first, they were really overpowered, I thought. Like a lot of them just had really OP abilities. Like once you got the Unison out, it's like, nope, this Unison stuck out here. You can't get rid of it. Now, like there's cards that can get rid of Unison markers. Actually get rid of the Unison card entirely. Like there's an SCR card, literally just gets rid of the entire Unison. But they've also added support to Unison cards. Like they have a new effect called Empower. They call it like Empower 3. And what that means is, so if I have a Unison card out with 3 markers on it, and then I play a new Unison card, if it has Empower 3, it actually carries over 3 markers from that old Unison card. So when I play the new one, get the 3 and then the addition. So they've added a lot of really cool features to Unison, and I think that's why they took so long with the Unison boost, or like with the Unison saga. And then also the exciting thing is 2 sets from now, they're adding a new area. Rumor is it's some sort of like evolve onto your leader for a turn. Like, so normally in the supercard game, you know, your leader will awaken or flip over essentially to a more powerful version. Well, they're actually going to be implementing a new way where you can even go beyond that. That's kind of the rumor with that.
That's a rumor though. Do we know for sure that that's what that new card zone is? Or is it related?
It's related. They did a video over it. They did a teaser video over it. Yeah, and they talk about something going over your leader card. Like there's video. So it's really, you got to see the video. It's really cool. But I know another thing that they really tried to do with the Unison format is they kind of wanted to test. And they were going to do this at the DBS Fest event.
This was a huge controversy.
Yeah, huge controversy. They were going to test, hey, we're only going to do the Unison Warrior card. So all your older cards, you know, we were just going to do that format. Which I thought, like, I liked it in the aspect of it's a new way to play the Dragon Ball Super card game, which I really wish we had more of. Because with Magic, for example, you could take your Magic cards, and how many different ways are there to play a Magic card game? Like, I mean, you've got Commander, so many. So I was like, okay, this is cool. It's DBS Fest. Like, we're trying to get new players in. This is not a competitive. I could understand if this was competitive. Like, if we were going to be doing this for like a big level, like, hey, this is a national event. So, no, this was literally just an event, celebrate the card game, give out really cool prizes, and to get new players into the game, which I think was a really good idea. However, we found out that I don't know if they did a poll officially, but we do know that the loudest players, the most passionate players, definitely, I don't want to say, you know, negative, but the most passionate did not 100% did not want rotation. And I understand that. I don't want rotation either. I love the fact that, especially when they came out with trying to remember the name of the set, when they literally Mythic Boosters, I think is what it was, that they released older cards and reprinted them. I thought they went about that wrong though, because if you look at the value of those boxes, they plummeted. Yep. I feel like they should have mixed that in with some of the new stuff. Don't make a dedicated set for that. Like, no, don't do that. Like, literally, if they wanted to do that, they could hit 2 birds with 1 stone. If they would have put in, hey, we're going to put a few of these reprint cards in with the new pretty artwork and foils for the collectors and the player base, and update any, errata or ban text. I think Pokemon does that. And mixed it in with that God Rare for everyone to hunt. You've just hit two birds with one stone, because now you're releasing a bunch of product, which means those cards that no one wants, new players can then get into the card game because you've released the old product to them. You got the collectors and those going after the God Rare. They should have implemented those new release cards in the new sets, not make a dedicated set to it.
That's the reprinting thing you're talking about is something that is definitely done in other card games. I'm going to once again reference Magic, because they've been doing this pretty well with some of their recent releases. There's certainly plenty of cards that are due for a reprint to lower the cost of entry on them. Such as like Dockside Extortionist and stuff for our Magic players. But, one thing they do that I think has been tempering prices of things in a pretty controlled way is they have these. It's on the negative side that's really confusing to buy boosters for Magic now, because they have draft boosters and they have set boosters and they have collector boosters and everything. But in these set boosters, they have this thing called the list, and about every 3 or so packs of set boosters, on average, you're going to hit a card from the list, which is like a 300 card or so list of random old cards that they reprint exactly as they were printed before, but with a little Planeswalker stamp in the corner. And which is really, it confuses new players so often. They like pull a card and they're like, this isn't supposed to be in the set, and they don't realize, because the only indication that it's a special thing is that tiny Planeswalker stamp in the very bottom corner of the border. So it's a little confusing for that, but the list is this curated list of, like I said, about 300 cards, and every set they drop a bunch of cards from it and they add a bunch of cards to it. And so like your odds of hitting any individual card from the list aren't great. Which means that this not going to take Umezawa's Jite or something and just completely destroy the price of it. But it is going to add a chunk of them back into the system, into the ecosystem to go around. And, those will exist in the list for usually a couple of sets, and then they'll just start rotating out. And they usually do pretty cute things. They put in very thematic cards. So with Kamigawa, they put in some like Umezawa's Jite and Sensei's Divining Top and some of these popular old Kamigawa themed cards that were valuable, as well as a smattering of old Kamigawa theme cards that were not at all valuable, just like, random cards.
Yeah, you gotta mix it up. Can't put everything valuable in there. But
exactly, because I think that's what you're saying. The issue with the Mythic boosters, it's just if everything is valuable as a reprint, then none of it is, because every pack you open is just, oh good, I got more of these cards. And like,
exactly.
You have way too many of them. I want to just comment on the Fest situation from my point of view, as someone who isn't ingrained in Dragon Ball Super, but just keeps up and watches from the sidelines everything going on there. I think there are, I think the main problem with the Fest and Unison only format that they announced was not at all the format, not at all the event. It was actually the fact that it was the only major paper event they had announced in years.
Yeah.
Right. A year and a half or whatever. And for their return to paper play, this would effectively be like if Magic announced, here's the first paper event in a long time. It's called only the last 2 sets of Magic are allowed format. And then everyone would look at that and go, okay, like that could be a cool format, but that's not like the only thing you're going to play now, right? Is that like, are you only going to make us buy the last 2 sets? And it would be disconcerting for a number of people. Now, I think there's an amount of trust that people have in Wizards where they wouldn't necessarily jump to that conclusion just because Wizards has supported so many formats for so long. But when a game, people have been on the edge about Dragon Ball Super, being worried that they're going to do a number of people worried that they're going to do rotation, a number of people hoping they do rotation. You can't write those people out also. And just the fact that they announced a return and they pushed this specific format for that, I think you're totally right, Mike. I think it was intended to just be a fun event to get people into the game where it's a lower barrier to get in. You just play this format, you get to shake it up a little bit. But it kind of needed to be alongside their main format that people have been playtesting and playing for and hoarding, collecting cards for and everything for years, and not just the only thing that was announced. And here's what I think is the Bandai maybe needs to be thinking about going forward is that, so you mentioned that they do pretty strict bannings to keep like turn 2 kills to be not very common. However, they do happen, right? Still. And the fact is, and I can't remember if we talked about this in a previous podcast with one of my other hosts, or if we talked about it after the podcast. It might have been something that didn't make it into the actual recording. But Dragon Ball Super and a lot of card games that aren't doing any sort of rotation end up falling into the situation where the power creep becomes a little untenable at some point, where the game, if you were an original like launch Dragon Ball Super player versus Dragon Ball Super now, the pacing's very different than it was at launch, because it kind of just crept to that point where the game has become fairly fast compared to how it was right away. A lot of people really cite that set 2 format, if I recall, as like their favorite format, based on the pace of the game and the deck variety that was available back then. And the fact is, if there's a lot of players who want the game to be in that slower pace, until a rotation is something that's implemented, it's not possible.
Yeah.
And here's why. It's because the instant they try and pull and hit the brakes on their power level and make a set that like reduces the power level a little bit so that all the new decks aren't just continuing to push the envelope on as far as like power and speed, that set doesn't sell at all, because it's just, I mean, collectors, we have the collectors, which is nice, but you don't get the player half of things because the cards just aren't very good. And and that's because they're being put into this full tapestry of the card game where they're compared against everything. The advantage to a rotating format is that, and this is something that I don't put out here as theory and speculation, I put out here as evidenced by Magic the Gathering standard history, because Magic has gone through a number of periods of time where they have a super powerful block. And then the next set, back when they did blocks, but they did super powerful sets, Throne of Eldraine being the most recent one. And then the next sets are not as powerful, just not as good. And it's only once Throne of Eldraine is able to rotate out in that example that you start looking at some of those cards from those less powerful sets and go, wait, hey on, these are playable now. This is like actually pretty good. And this all kind of works together. And the advantage of a rotating format is that you're able to pump the brakes a little bit so often to go, okay, we don't need to keep pushing. Just because Throne of Eldraine was strong, we don't need the next 6 sets to be just as strong. We can go, let's pull back a little bit. Let's like, we made a few mistakes there. Let's try and just like make sure we don't break anything for a couple of sets. Are they going to sell as well? Not quite, but it's playing the long game, because then after rotation, then those sets go, actually, these are pretty good. And then you can continue to be printing at that slightly lower power level. And if you imagine this, we're just talking about like a line graph where it goes up and then down a little, and then a lower slope, and then down a little, and a lower slope down a little. That's what you get to do when you rotate, is you get to do that, because otherwise you do a drop in power level and then just nobody buys it. And then your card game isn't doing well at all, because that's important for a card game.
That's why, and that goes back to how Magic has so many different ways to play, like the different formats and stuff. That's where I think it's an opportunity in the Dragon Ball Super card game where it's like, okay, we can introduce that Unison Warrior block format. I understand with a lot of players, a lot of competitive players, like I know myself, and I'm with them. Like, when it comes to the competitive aspect of the game, regionals, nationals, like they're like, listen, we don't want rotation. Get that out of here. You need all the cards. I can understand that. And, to be honest, I would say, yeah, let's stick with that. But I think if we can introduce even locals, like, here's the Unison Warrior format, the Unison Warrior tournament, or just an easier way for new players to get in. I think we got a really good start with re-releasing some of the really good cards for Mythic Boosters. The problem is I don't know if they're going to continue that due to how the value literally went down. So unless they're going to start reprinting some of the cards in the other set, I would really like to see some other ways to play the game. Just so we can get some of these new players in for sure, and really help grow the community.
I think one of the issues with introducing a bunch of formats for smaller card games is dividing the player base.
Yeah.
And that is one of the strongest arguments you can bring up for not doing that. However, I don't think that's the like an end-all argument. I think it's quite possible to introduce variety formats and cause it to grow the player base on its own, like you're saying. So that's my, if anyone's listening to that and going, but it can't support it, that's my response to you, I guess, which is that like, it has to be done correctly, of course. And the way they did it with the fest was just not the way to do it.
No, agreed. Yeah, that was bad.
However, I think I would encourage people who are anti-rotation at least to consider the benefits of having variety formats that people can play. And I think it's important that the main, there's still a competitive format where everything goes, right? And they just have their ban list and they follow that because that's what people like. And the thing is about these games, we're going back to the very beginning, which I love doing, a little full circle here. Archetypal design games. The issue is that when you rotate, you can sometimes cause cards that you print to have absolutely no meaning. Imagine if, in the full card game, those that red GT support, really good or useful. You can actually do something with it, right? If it's Unison Warrior only format, is there even anything really for that to latch onto and do anything with? I'm not sure. It's a conceit. It's a concession, right? That you have to make, I guess. But I think there are advantages to having a variety of formats, and I think I would like to see, for the health of Dragon Ball Super, them to sort of in a correct way push trying to do that sort of block series only format as a side thing that people can jump in on and play, maybe design a little bit focused on that being a thing. But it would be really great to see the game get to the point where what Magic gets to do in their high level events is they say, there's this event is going to be a pioneer format. This event's going to be standard. This event's going to be modern. And nobody gets like upset really. Not a significant amount of people get upset because they just go, okay, well, I don't want to play in the pioneer one, but I'll go play in the modern one. And they just have those options available to them. And again, this just goes back to the problem with the fest was you didn't have options, right? It was just, you better like Unison Warrior only format. And there was no lead up. There was no preparation. If at the start of the pandemic, they said, hey, when we get back to paper, there's going to be a fest where you can play Unison Warrior only, and there's still going to be the regular format, then people might have had no issues with it because they would have been like, oh, they said this was going to happen. I've been practicing my Unison series format, so I was ready for this, and I'm not worried because they said there's going to be the original format. But yeah, you can't just say, here's the return to the game, and it's this format you've never done before, and we have no guarantee it's going to not be the only format going forward.
Absolutely.
So, Mike, I think we're kind of gone over our time limit here, so we're going to call it here. But I think we talked about a lot of good stuff here, and
for sure,
I think we're feeling good about Dragon Ball Super going forward.
Agreed.
I think their God Rare thing is showing that they still have it. They still got what it takes to get people into purchasing packs, and collectors are huge on Dragon Ball Super. If your locals are suffering, I think there's things that you can do. There's things Bandai can do, and there's things you can do to help get the game back going again. But if you love the game, just get out there and play and show people, and that certainly won't hurt.
Yeah, the Bandai. I'll tell you now, they're actually making a third game. So we got the Dragon Ball
talked
Super
about One
game.
Piece as well. Yep.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Super. They got digital. Now they're making One Piece. I don't think that any of those card games are going anywhere anytime soon. They know what they're doing. But yeah, just go find your collectors. Like, I literally went to my locals and I said, "Oh, hey, so he bought 2 cases of Realm of God's Gone," and that was before the price spike. And I was like, "Whoa, okay, so who bought those?" And it's like, let's next time they come in and ask for product, let them know we're starting tournaments up. Let's get them in here. They can even if they don't play. just getting them in to like trade cards or buy cards or stuff. There's the fish hook right there. And then you just get them in. Oh, hey, you want to learn how to play? Got all those cards. And yeah.
There you go. Sage advice. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Maindeck Podcast. Episode 16 is coming to a close here. And before we shut it down, I want to shout out to our patrons who have been helping keep Maindeck going. Really appreciate you guys. Names are going to appear on the screen on the YouTube video right now. Our patrons are awesome, and if you want to support the Maindeck Podcast, if you like this kind of stuff, and if you want to get in on some of the really cool goodies, we have like a really cool playmat that is exclusive to our patrons that you'll be able to earn this year by supporting us, that features Super Saiyan Trunks, the cool future one from the Zamasu arc, who's my favorite one. And also features Lorraine from Grand Archive, a little crossover, a little fun playmat for you. If you are interested in checking that out, or just the other goodies we have on Patreon, including discounts for our merch, check out our Patreon link down below. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for supporting. Thank you all for listening. And thank you, Mike, for coming on again. It was really great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Look forward to some deck profiles and showing you some of my spice. And I got some good spice to share. So,
all right, we're gonna get spicy in here. I like it. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one. See you guys.
See ya.